Welcome to The Liberation Effect with me, your host, Helen. Hello everyone and welcome to another episode of The Liberation Effect. Today I'm delighted to welcome Lucy, who's come to talk to me about parenting her daughter and how some of the behaviours that her daughter shows can really trigger her, whereas when her son shows the same behaviours, they do not trigger her. And on top of that, would like to explore rumination around her relationship with her mother. Lucy, welcome. And have I given that enough credit and weight? And is there anything else that you want to add about what you're looking to get from our time together today?
No, I think you encapsulated that really, really well.
Okay.
What I would like to get from today, I think, are about some validation, perhaps
Okay.
that what I'm experiencing is not out of the bounds of the ordinary necessarily.
Okay.
And probably some practical advice and some techniques, perhaps, or just ways of working through the problem so that I can leave the rumination behind me, or for example, when I'm being triggered by my daughter versus my son, I know how to deal with that so that my behaviour with her isn't affected, if that makes sense.
Absolutely makes sense. So where would you like to start? Which one feels more present, I suppose, or more important?
Well, the more important is certainly around my daughter, because obviously that has the potential to impact her more directly.
Right.
So that, is obviously my priority.
Yeah.
And probably would be where I'd like to go first.
Okay. So, well, with that in mind, why don't you give me a bit of context, a bit of background, tell me what is going on really with it.
So I have two children, as you said. I have a daughter who is just about to turn 10, and my son recently turned 7. They are both absolutely delicious, and I love them very, very much, and they bring a huge amount of joy to my life in their own ways. My daughter she has recently, well, not recently, it was last year now, she was diagnosed as autistic. She is incredibly like me. I mean, the apple has not fallen far from the tree in that sense at all. Personality-wise, she physically looks very much like her dad, but she very, very similar to me.
Okay. Are you diagnosed autistic?
I'm not diagnosed autistic. I am, however, diagnosed dyslexic. I have anxiety and depression, and I look at everyone else in my family, and I would not be surprised if I chose to take a diagnostic test that I may, be discovered as such. But I haven't had an official diagnosis, no.
But you think you may well be?
I wouldn't be surprised.
Okay. And when they diagnosed your daughter, did they mention it? Did they say? Okay.
Yeah, sorry, I'm nodding. That's not great.
That's
podcast,
fine.
Is it?
No, it's fine. You're nodding. I would have said it. Don't worry. So
yes,
that's a
did.
big. That was a rueful nod.
The diagnostician was like, "Well, I've read your report. Have you considered going for a diagnosis yourself?"
Okay. Well, that's fairly indicative, is it not?
It is indeed. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So she is very like you, diagnosed autistic.
Yes.
9, nearly 10.
9 minutes. Yeah. Yeah.
And carry on. Yeah, keep going.
So, and so she can display a behaviour that is almost identical to my son, and when she does it, I get like a physical reaction in my chest.
Yeah.
That's the closest I can pin it to is anxiety,
Okay.
like fear.
Yeah.
But that can turn to anger quite quickly. Now I don't express it. I don't overtly express it. I don't lose my temper particularly or anything like that. I'm quite good, but I certainly suppress it rather than deal with it.
Okay.
And I know for a fact that it must be having, she can tell, and it is. She doesn't say, you treat me different to my brother or anything like that, but the amount of effort I have to put in to regulate myself around her and behave in a way that I want to around her is much larger than I would have to say for my son.
Right.
Which is difficult.
Really difficult. Amazing that you notice it. Amazing that you're owning it. And that is you know, I just really want to validate that part,
hmm
because there are so many people, as you may well know yourself from what you've said about your mother and your relationship with her, who just would not recognize that in themselves and wouldn't own it at all. And I think I just really want to honor that for you, because it just shows how different you're trying to be, and how aware of your impact on your daughter you are, and how, yeah, you know that even though you're trying to really contain it, it will still be a thing that she may well pick up on. And so, yeah, just the honesty and the self-awareness in that is really admirable. And I just,
Thank you.
no, that's, I mean, really important to, know that for yourself. So have you got a specific example that you could use to sort of demonstrate?
Yes. So obviously I knew I was coming on, so I've been thinking about this for the last couple of weeks, and then
Okay.
it's quite a minor example, but it really, I think, shows it quite clearly.
Mm-hmm.
Around meal times,
Mm-hmm.
I try and instill good table manners in my
Mm-hmm.
children. And one of them would be, for example, using cutlery and eating with your mouth shut.
Right.
And they're not huge or difficult or beyond the realms of possibility for either of them.
Mm-hmm.
But they both will eat with their mouth open at times. The
Okay.
kids, they do. When my daughter does it, I I find it so difficult to even just keep calm, because it's about the 427th time this week I've had to say it.
Yes.
To just keep calm and go, no, mouth shut, please, mouth shut, please. That I have this kind of physical feeling inside me, kind of almost like bubbling up. Whereas my son does it, I'd rather he didn't, but mouth shut, and it's fine. There's absolutely no feeling behind it. It's just a simple request. Please eat with your mouth shut.
Okay. When you
Does
were,
that make
yeah,
sense?
total sense.
Yeah.
When you were 9 years old, if you ate with your mouth open, what would have happened to you?
I would have been told off quite abruptly.
And how would that have felt?
Scary,
Okay.
possibly unfair as well, because it was just, I forgot to eat with my mouth, or I just had to open my mouth for a second, and it would feel unfair as well as scary, depending on the situation.
So the scary feeling that you felt then, sorry, how similar is that to the feeling you feel when she is doing it and you're trying to contain?
It's very similar. It's the same.
The exact same.
It's not the fear of when I was being told off. It was more, we're gonna get told off.
Right.
It's
total
subtly
sense.
different.
Yeah.
But yes, that's the fear. That's the feeling.
So,
I've done something wrong and I'm gonna get found out.
Okay. So when your daughter is sitting eating with her mouth open, something in you is going, we're going to get in trouble. We're going to stop it. We're going to get in trouble.
Yep.
And you said earlier that she is very like you. The apple doesn't fall far from the tree, was the phrase you used. Physically looks like her father, but behaviourally, personality, very like you.
Yep.
So when you think about her doing it and you're there parenting her about it, and she does the whole mouth open thing, and that fear pops up, and then the anger that you then have to try and contain, how old does that feel? How old do you feel in that?
Not adult.
Okay.
Not adult. We'd say pre-teenage.
So
certainly.
So sort of
about her age. Yeah.
Can you see where I might be going with this?
Absolutely. I have trodden this path mentally myself.
Okay.
I have joined these particular dots.
Okay. So how
Just
much?
don't know what to do with it.
Okay, fine. So how much inner child kind of work have you done at all?
None. I mean, I know it exists. I know the kind of the premise of it. None practically. No.
Okay. How do you feel about your inner child? or your younger, let's remove it from the words inner child and say your younger self. How do you feel about your younger self?
It's a mixture of feelings.
Hmm.
I feel sometimes, I do sometimes feel compassion. That is a relatively recent thing. I feel sorry for her and what she dealt
Okay.
with. I often feel, I don't know if disdain is quite the right word. Disgust is too strong. It's almost, I would say maybe contempt,
Okay.
in that we should have been better and wasn't.
Ah, so if she had been good enough, she wouldn't have got in trouble.
Yes.
So it's her fault that she was treated the way she was.
Yes. Yeah.
Is that fair?
No. No,
Isn't
it's not.
isn't it's really interesting that you notice for your daughter it's not fair for you to lose your temper and tell her off for something that is really a basic childhood learning process. But for you, you bore the responsibility for the way that you were treated.
Yes.
How does it help you to believe that?
I think it allows, if I didn't believe it, I might relax too much and slip up.
And
It's
then,
almost like a control of,
yeah.
it's a way to control my behavior and keep it at a good enough level.
So if I believe I'm bad inherently, then I will not be bad.
I mean, when you put it like that,
No,
but
but
yes,
that's
what
the
if I believe I'm not correct or I'm not good enough, I'll make sure I keep trying to be good enough,
okay. Tell me what good enough actually looks like.
not making mistakes.
Oh, so we're not talking good enough. We're talking perfection.
Yes.
And I just want to say this for everybody who's listening, because it sounds like I'm being a bit sarcastic and I'm really conscious, but the way that we're vibing with it is
It's
the
absolutely
facial
fine.
expressions and it's really like, and this is going
Yeah.
on and that's going on. So, okay, so because this is where the humor in therapy or coaching, whatever there is so much humor in it, and it can be such a really brilliant way to access really painful parts without it feeling like really overwhelmingly heavy.
Yeah. Yeah.
And yeah, and so what I'm hearing is you say, I have to be perfect to
Mhm.
be, and what would I have to be perfect to be? And if you could
Safe.
oh, anything else? Safe.
Love, but that comes second.
Okay, so safe and loved.
Mhm.
To be safe and loved, I have to be perfect. That is a lot of pressure.
Yeah.
How are you feeling right now?
Almost relieved,
Okay, can you tell me a bit more?
somewhat, somewhat peaceful,
Okay,
in that if I feel like said something big that wanted to get out, and the space that's left is quite nice.
okay. Did you know that about yourself before? That I have to be perfect to be safe and loved?
It has come up before,
Okay,
yeah, but not necessarily in this context.
okay. So saying it out loud in the context, and sorry, just for clarification, of talking about your younger self,
Yeah,
do you mean?
my
Yeah,
younger self and my behavior with my daughter.
okay. Huh. And so, sorry, I just had a little moment of, is that then she has to be perfect for you to be safe and loved too?
Not intellectually, I know, but
Emotionally?
emotionally,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay. But
And and I have,
go on.
sorry, no, I was going to say I have noticed it when previously, sort of, from I've had it for 10 years, so in the last
Hmm.
decade, I have noticed that when she was behaving, just as a kid, and it wasn't perfect, I would get quite upset about it. And I worked on that really, really hard, and it
Yeah.
has. And I kind of identified what was going on, before therapy, before I found your content,
Mm-hmm.
anything like that. I kind of knew that this was a me problem, not a her problem.
That's
And I
amazing.
managed to get rid of the really big sort of overt bits,
Mm-hmm.
I guess.
Mm-hmm.
But just with, sort of being, sort of taking a breath and being calm and telling myself, she's okay, she's allowed to behave like that. She's a little girl. It's all right. It's all right. It's all right. But there are these things that we're talking about today that I've hung over that I haven't been able to get rid of.
Okay. Yeah. It's really interesting. You sort of described parenting yourself.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. So if we go back then to
Mhm.
younger you
Mhm.
and your kind of disdain, contempt, not repulsion, not revulsion, not disgust, but something,
Mhm.
and that kind of, if I think like this about myself, I can keep myself safe and I can keep myself loved.
Mhm.
Have you ever considered the idea of how much power it gives you to believe that you are the problem?
Yes. In that I, if I can make myself better, if I can fix myself, it's something I can do. I don't have to just surf out whatever the problem is and let other people do the other people stuff.
Okay.
I can control it.
Okay. What else does that mean then?
In what way? What else does it mean in terms
Well,
of?
so you said if I believe that about myself, I can
Mhm.
control it. I don't have to surf it out. So I hold power in that I can fix it.
Mhm.
And so, are there any other layers to what power you might have by holding on to that belief?
Well, that I can control the way other people will treat me
Mm-hmm.
by the way that I behave.
Yes. And so then, what does that mean?
That I sounds really stupid. I can be in charge, but it's not that I want to be in charge. I just want to have like a level of control that I can, whereby I can keep myself safe.
Yeah. So if I behave correctly, I can control how they treat me.
Yes. Yeah.
And if I accept that I can't control how they treat me, then what happens?
And then might be horrible to me.
And then what would that mean?
Not safe.
And then what would that mean? I know it's annoying.
Spread round in
No, it's not a trick.
circles.
It's not. It's all right. It's not a trick question.
No, if
It's
I'm not, well, if I'm not safe, then I'm just adrift. I've got nothing.
what would it mean for the relationship with that person?
Well, that it was. I want to say it was damaging, and I wouldn't want it anymore.
Right.
Uh,
You want to say that, or you don't want to say that?
no, I do want to say that. That's what's coming
Okay.
up. But in the now times, that's true. But,
Okay.
that's something I can accept.
Okay.
But in the little me times, that's
Yeah.
obviously not an
Well,
option.
yeah, because what would it mean for little you to know that she actually had no effect and impact or control over how she was treated by whoever was being mean to her?
Well, it's just crushing.
Mm.
You just have to accept that you're going to be treated like that, regardless of the effort that you put in.
And then what does she have to accept?
That she's not safe and that she's possibly not loved.
And that she could never be good enough.
No.
And then if we lose that, if we accept that, we lose hope. We lose potentially the relationship with the parent or the person who is being mean. We have to accept that they might be the bad thing. And that makes us very, very unsafe. And means that we have literally no power or control. And that also feels completely bewildering and unsafe and all of the awful things.
Mm.
How does that land for you?
It lands both, I would say, heavily,
Mm-hmm.
but also, again, it's that same feeling of like an exhale, like almost like a peace.
So you can let go of that
Mm.
power.
Mm.
This is the thing that happens in systems where toxic parenting people are present, is that the victim, particularly the child, will internalize blame for the way that they are treated. And I've said this before, where the toxic parent, narcissistic parent will say, it's your fault I treat you this way. Toxic partners, bosses, colleagues, friends do this. You are the reason I treat you this way. And we accept that as children because it's safer to, rather than to say, no, you're a baddie and that's not okay. Because then we have to accept that that relationship will never be what we want it to be. And it's usually that hope that keeps us feeling any joy in life at all,
Yeah.
or belief that maybe my parent can be the parent I need them to be. And so what I'm hearing is, when your daughter is doing the mouth open chewing, you're so terrified of getting in trouble, but at the same time believe you have to be in control of how she chews her mouth so it doesn't reflect badly on you as an adult.
Mm-hmm.
And then I go to a place of, did you ever hear growing up things along the lines of, your friend was so awful, control them, why, like their behaviour was, you were in charge of how your friend behaved?
Yes.
There's a big smile, and I
Yeah.
like, what's going
Because
on?
it wasn't my friend. It was
Oh,
my mother.
would you like to say a little bit more?
Yeah, I think it would possibly be appropriate. I grew up with my mother and my stepfather,
Okay.
and they were both tricky people, shall we say. They were very difficult in their own ways,
Right.
and it was a very fiery match.
Okay.
And actually, the more I think about it, it wasn't just my stepfather saying to me that I was responsible for my mother's behaviour. I can now think of examples where my mother would say to me that I am responsible for my stepfather's behaviour as well.
So both of them made you responsible for each of how the other behaved?
Only when they were behaving badly, obviously.
Not obviously, but...
No, true. True.
But, so you're thinking about that now. How does it feel?
I mean, I've got a wry smile on my face. It's almost comical if I can look at it, well, as I look at it from the outside.
Mm-hmm.
And it is, for the most part, the situation feels quite distant. So I'm quite calm about it. It's also really unfair.
It's really unfair.
Yeah.
It is. It's grossly unfair. So adult you now sitting here can have the wry comical smile about the situation because you can zoom out and you're out of it and you can look at it and be like, oh my God, it's ridiculous.
Yeah.
But what did 9-year-old you feel about it?
Huge weight.
What did the weight tell her? What was it?
Was a feeling of being responsible for something that, trying really hard to be in charge of something that you are not, no matter you can't control, and the fear of almost getting it wrong because that would create a situation that you would be in trouble, you would be blamed for, you'd be in trouble for. But at the same time, kind of knowing that you couldn't be in charge of it anyway. It, it, I sort of like on one level, I felt a lot of responsibility for it, but on the other level, I knew that I couldn't control it, but I had to, and it's quite jarring. It was very difficult to put those two things together, because obviously they don't go.
Okay. How would she have described how it felt?
Just scary.
Scary.
Mm.
What I heard you do was really go into a very adult space to explain a child's experience.
Yes.
And I wonder how disconnected you are from her experience.
Very.
Okay. Because, you know, we've laughed and we've been getting on really nicely, and it's all really lovely and funny, and haha, you know, trauma. And then, yay.
So we can make it funny.
Yay. Yeah. I just got this sparkling personality and humour and from my childhood trauma. But the reality and the real truth of it is that your little self, your younger you, was living on eggshells permanently. And it was so bad that your daughter, now chewing with her mouth open, can trigger you into anger in such a way that you have to work really hard to contain it.
Yep.
And so I notice, perhaps, that you ignore, minimize, dismiss her experience.
I agree. I do.
Okay. What would it be like to honour that?
I just have the word self-indulgent screaming in my head.
Ooh, okay.
And I know that is the point I want to get to, because from all the reading and the research and the I've dabbled in, I know that's what, and I get it, but it's almost, there's just, I don't know how to get there. And obviously, you know, you asked the question of how would it feel, and I want to say it would feel amazing to honor that, and that's where I'd like to get to, but right now it just feels like it would be self-indulgent, and
Okay.
you know, what the hell have you got to complain about, kind of thing.
Okay, so let's just go with that idea for a moment. It was, let's say it was self-indulgent. What would that mean?
It would be self-indulgent because I had an incredibly picturesque childhood, and there are people out there who had far less.
Okay.
I know where this goes. I've heard it before. I've heard it said on your shows before. But you know, it's almost like it's stuck in there, that all this it's a question. It's just self-indulgent when there are people out there who were, you know, starving, living on the streets, whatever you want to say. It just, and I'm complaining that I got shouted at. It feels like a block, like almost like a wall.
It's so interesting that you answered that question that way.
Okay.
Because I said, what would it mean if it was self-indulgent? And then you explained to me why it was self-indulgent.
It was self-indulgent. Okay. Yeah.
And it's just an interesting deflection, maybe, or avoidance.
Not a conscious one.
No, but well,
no.
But healthy people, deflection is not conscious. That's right. So we all do it. Deflection. It's all. There's a whole thing about like healthy and unhealthy, and you know, and conscious and unconscious. This is not you trying to manipulate. This is your brain going, dangerous zone, we don't want to go in there. Thanks.
Hmm.
We're trying to keep that door very much shut.
Hmm.
And could you stop knocking on it, please? Is what it is, right?
Yeah.
And it's just avoidance, right?
Hmm.
If we think of it as avoidance rather, because obviously the word deflection gets so associated with emotional abuse rather than just that is something that every human being does to avoid a way of feeling, right?
Hmm.
And whatever that might be. The difference is when it becomes a manipulation tactic, right?
Hmm.
If I go with, we'll come back to the why it's self-indulgent, but if I ask
Okay.
you again, what would it mean for you to be self-indulgent? What would that say about you? Perhaps is a better question.
It would say that I am a bad person,
Okay.
that I consider myself above other people, before other people,
Mm-hmm.
and I somehow think I'm special.
So self-indulgence means I'm selfish, that I
Yeah,
prioritize
yeah, yeah.
myself, that I'm bad,
Hmm.
that I'm superior.
Yes.
Is this sounding like anyone you know? There's a
One or
chuckle for
two.
those.
One or
Okay.
two.
Okay. Why is that funny? I'm laughing with you. I'm so colluding with the humour avoidance, and it's
No,
terrible.
I'm
But
trying really hard not to do it. So,
it's fine.
yeah.
I'll call it out in a minute. Don't worry.
Okay, thanks. It's I, it sounds, whether it sounds like them personally or not, I don't know. I'd need to think about it a little more, but it certainly sounds like the narratives that my mother and stepfather put on me.
Okay, so it's all the worst things a human can be that they accused you of being, that you're terrified of being, that you've done all this stuff, all created all these different ways of living to avoid being.
Hmm.
So were you to acknowledge how shit it really was for you as a kid, you would become this version of yourself that they said you were. That meant that they would abandon you and punish you and shame you and humiliate you.
It's not that I would become that, it's that I've always been that all along.
So you would prove them right.
Yes.
Okay. It always interests me, this kind of belief system. One I completely relate to, just for normalization purposes, that I think that most people that grow up in these systems will, in the kind of scapegoat role, or in the place where they have been told continuously that they're not good enough or rejected constantly, will have this kind of, I need all these things in place to stop me being who they say I am. Because I must be that person because they're my parent. They know me better than anyone else. So I must be, and so I therefore have to put in a load of countermeasures so I am not those things. And if they are inherently self-centered and selfish and self-perpetuating and self-indulgent in that very negative to the cost of others way, they would just do it. They couldn't do what you're doing in terms of prioritizing other people. How does that feel? Do you believe that or do you not believe?
I do believe it.
But for other
I
people and
do.
not you?
Possibly. Possibly.
Okay.
I'm trying to.
I know, no, it's okay. I just kind of could tell there was that applies to other people, but not to me.
Yeah. And I think that's quite a strong, it's a phrase that lives in the back of my mind
Okay.
quite a lot.
Applies to others and not to me.
It applies to others, not to me. Mm-hmm.
I'm desperately intrigued to know how many other people think the same and similar way. Why does it not apply to you?
I don't know. It has no, I can't logic it out. can't can't work it out.
How
It's
can go on?
it's it it's something I've thought about a lot because I know it's incorrect. I know it's wrong.
Like intellectually and logically, no. Yeah.
Intellectually, I just can't shift it.
How connected to your shame are you?
I avoid it like the plague.
And that was, you really held that like,
I
that's
really
like, that's why, yeah, what was that?
It's the wide mouth frog.
Why is it the wide mouth frog? What's that?
If I do something shameful, even if I just skirt around the edges of doing something shameful, it feels catastrophic to me.
Because?
It proves that I am a, let's say, disgusting human being.
Okay. Okay. What are you feeling right now?
A little bit wobbly.
Yeah. This is a big piece of work. You have been maybe allowing shame to drive you.
Yes, I can see several fairly obvious examples of that. Yeah.
Would you like to share them, or would you like to, or one, two?
No, I mean there are several. So it's as simple as I worked quite hard in the last couple of years to try and shift it, but I would always, rather than feel, I would like to, for example, I would like to manage my weight to make sure that I am fit, healthy, and strong going forward, or that I would look nice. It is, if you get fat, you're disgusting.
Right. So
One
all
example.
These little evidences of your moral reprehensibility, your corruption.
And that's not what that's not what I feel for anyone else.
No,
at all.
I know.
I want to make that clear. I really don't.
And I actually really believe you. And I think this is really actually very important, that we can have a belief for ourselves that we are not entitled to be or have a particular thing, but everyone else can have it.
Yeah.
Right? Often shows up in weight, sexuality, confidence, love, things like that. Yeah. So carry on. So you have that one around weight.
There would be, or I say, for example, I drink too much at a party, and we're not talking, suddenly doing body shots of an 18-year-old or something. I'm talking about,
who cares if we are? Like, it just
well,
doesn't.
exactly.
Who cares? But okay.
Being a bit chatty and perhaps talking a bit too loudly, perhaps talking a bit too much, perhaps saying things the next day that you think, anyone else does it, I think that was hilarious, or I'm glad they had a nice time and let the hair down, or I could see they really needed to do that. Isn't that great? It was lovely that it was such a nice atmosphere and everyone was clearly having a good time. I do it. I will go into possibly a 2 to 3 day shame spiral of what an awful human being I am for allowing myself to get in that state.
Why do you think that might be?
Because I allowed myself to make mistakes.
What was the mistake?
Talking too loudly, saying things that were perhaps slightly inappropriate, or any of the things that drunk people do. And for me to do that is not okay. That's going to show what an awful human being I am to everyone else.
Okay. If you're scared of rejection, of saying no, have no idea how to trust people, you're not alone, and you don't have to heal alone either. That's what the Hub is for. It's a membership community designed for survivors just like you. Every month, we dive into powerful courses, we hold live calls, and connect in a supportive, understanding space so you can break free from the past and build healthy, fulfilling relationships. Maybe it's time to stop surviving and instead start thriving. Visit jointhehub.ac today using the code POD20 to get £20 off your first month's membership. I can't wait to see you there. Take care. Bye. If you were to kind of conceptualize how drunk people kind of behave in a internal experience, this might be a bit abstract and it might not work as a question, but if you were to kind of explain what happens to somebody when they get drunk in terms of their behaviour towards other people, what would you say?
I don't want to be obtuse, but to me, it does depend on the drunk person, because some people are lovely
Yeah, absolutely.
and
Okay,
friendly
so
and chatty,
let's
and
just stay with a lovely drunk person then, and not
okay,
an
fine,
aggressive, horrible one.
not
So,
the
but
nasty ones.
but it still applies. Where I'm going with this still applies to drunk people. Sorry, angry
Okay, it's angry
drunk
drunks.
people. But
They show themselves. I would say they show themselves more
exactly,
freely
their
than
filters
they
come
would.
off.
Yes. Yeah.
So you get a bit tipsy, your filters come off, and you start showing your authentic self.
Oh, I don't like that.
Oh, you nearly vomited. What happened there?
Don't like that. That's
No, that was
yeah.
a.
No,
There
I
was
don't
a.
like that.
You're,
Yes.
are you feeling sick?
Slightly.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then as soon as I noticed it, no, it's not that bad. And then you felt it again.
Oh, it really is. Yeah.
If you need to vomit,
Yeah.
that's fine.
Oh, looking at the bin under my desk.
It's okay. What's
Okay.
happening?
Yeah.
What is happening? You're laughing again, but this is clearly very painful.
Yeah. Okay. I'm all right. I'm okay.
Sure.
Yeah, I'm okay. Yeah.
Okay.
Say it again.
When you get a bit tipsy,
Yeah.
your filters come off and you show your authentic self.
Yeah.
And then you shame spiral for 2 or 3 days because you have been honest and open and maybe a bit controversial and maybe had an opinion that differs to somebody, or maybe called out some bad behaviour or toxic communication, or just been a bit more free in who you are as a human being. You've let the ropes loosen.
Mm-hmm.
And that is terrifying, because what happened if you revealed your authentic, true, unbound self as a child?
I don't remember that ever being an option. Even little snippets of it
Okay.
were squashed.
And so when they were squashed, what did that feel like?
It was really sad.
It was sad. It was rejection.
Yeah.
So when you put yourself in the path of rejection, what does that feel like?
It's really scary.
Yeah.
I'm very careful about who I would honestly allow myself to be rejected by.
Because
It feels so bad. I don't want to be rejected if I can avoid it. If I don't need to put myself in that situation.
what does it say about you if someone rejects you?
Intellectually, I know the answer.
Emotionally?
But the emotional answer is that I'm not good enough and they don't.
Okay.
That
That you're not good enough and they don't?
they don't like me.
Does it prove any of the narratives true?
Possibly, depending on the situation.
Okay. If someone doesn't like you, what does that mean?
I'm not likable.
So one person not liking you means you as an entire human being
I am an individual,
are not likable.
not by anyone else on the planet.
I can see you logicking it. This is the difficulty with, and this is not in any way critical, and it's actually meant to be empowering. But I want to acknowledge that it might feel critical as a kind of like my own awareness of that. When I work with autistic clients, they are so good at logicking that they avoid the emotion altogether. So they can rationalize and justify and explain and reason, logic, every single thing that we can talk about. And to stay with the emotion is really challenging, in part because their intellectual brain is so good at this kind of pattern recognition and problem solving and answer seeking and solution providing kind of thing. But the emotional experience is so disconnected from often, largely, well, actually, maybe it's a chicken egg thing, because it's possibly because they had to do that to survive. When somebody's autistic, you know, their meltdowns, their emotional exuberance is often asked repeatedly to be smaller, and instead of given space and nurture and freedom to exist. And this is something very important as a parent of an autistic child, but also as potentially an autistic person yourself, is that meltdowns are encouraged, that emotions are held and supported and allowed, that disappointment, we don't spend so much time avoiding putting our autistic children in difficult emotional spaces because we're fearful of them having a meltdown and then us having to deal with the fallout of that and the impact and the kind of everyone looking at us, and we try and kind of avoid things that might upset to avoid the whole fallout. And in doing that, we do them a huge disservice because we don't allow them to learn how to regulate it for themselves. And for you too, you got taught over and over again, don't bring your emotion here, don't bring your emotion here, don't bring your emotion here. We only want this version of you. This is the only one that we will accept and love. And therefore, and I say love with very heavily inverted commas, and anything else will be dismissed out of pocket, right? Your ability to logic your way through a situation, an experience, a behaviour is amazing, but it's also stopping you processing it, which leads me on to your rumination.
Okay, good. So it all links.
Yeah, I wonder if you've got any idea how it might, before I explain, which I'm happy to do, obviously, but I am.
Could it be, and this has never occurred to me before, but could it be the rumination is me trying to logic it again and again and again?
Yes.
Yes. Okay.
I might say. Rumination is something that most people with trauma will do. We do it constantly. Bessel van der Kolk talks about it in his book, The Body Keeps the Score, that we replay things. And the way to stop doing that is to rewrite the ending of things.
Okay.
So we imagine ourselves in the scenario, and then we either have a superhero come in and rescue us if we're a child, or our adult self goes and rescues us, or someone intervenes, or we say something we wish we had said. Right? That there is a different ending to the trauma, the rumination pattern. Could you give me an example of something that you might or have ruminated on?
So what I will say is a lot of my ruminations they never actually happened. A lot of them are made up.
Okay.
So I don't know if that's relevant.
Yes, it is. Absolutely. Go for it.
Okay.
Yeah.
A lot of them are made up. So, but one that pops up quite regularly when I am unloading the dishwasher. I don't like my water bottles to go through the dishwasher. I can taste the dishwasher stuff on them.
Tablet, yeah.
Yep. And I had my mother staying with me. It was in my house. It was my house in my dishwasher 10 years ago, something like that. And she had helpfully put my water bottle in the dishwasher.
Take out that word helpfully. Remove, sorry.
Okay, fine. So she'd put my water bottle in the dishwasher and it hadn't run, but I was putting some other stuff in. I took it out and I went, oh, thank you very much. I don't put my water bottles in the dishwasher. I don't like the way it makes them taste. But thank you. That's it. Nothing overly controversial. I got, what was I trying to help? So, well, thank you, but please don't next time. Just don't worry about it. I'll deal with it. I'll wash it up. You don't have to do anything. Just don't put them in the dishwasher. You can taste how they taste. Yes. Maybe it's just stupid. Well, I can't. Okay. Okay. Well, don't be so ridiculous. Well, regardless, thank you. Please don't put my water bottle in the dishwasher. And she huffs off and leaves. I don't see her for a couple of hours. So you just, every time I see my water bottle on top of the dishwasher because I haven't put it on, it triggers this insane conversation that it's not a particularly heavily emotional one, but I just get angry and frustrated at it because it's so frustrating.
Okay, let's rewind that then. What do you wish you had said to her when she started going?
It's my dishwasher and my water bottle. Will you bugger off?
Okay. Imagine it.
That's quite nice. And to be honest, the result is the same because she'd still huff off upstairs and not talk to me for 2 hours. So
but yeah, so the outcome is the same either way. But you got to have a voice.
Yes. Yeah.
But did you hear how you kept trying to make it okay that she had done that and was saying it to you?
Yes. No.
Yeah. You kept saying, no, it's all right. Don't worry. Instead of, you really don't need to make a big deal out of this. Just don't put them in the dishwasher. I don't care whether you think I can or can't. I can. Stop minimising me. Stop dismissing me. Stop taking it so bloody personally and just don't put them in the bloody dishwasher.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Your rewriting of your answer was quite mild. Was it?
I thought it was quite strong.
I know.
I think yours is backstage.
Okay, but there it is, right? But I'm not in the situation, but I can see, and I'm also quite a feisty human being in that kind of regard. So I would be more, if this was a common experience, I'd be like, why would you care? You don't have my taste buds.
No.
And for what it's worth, I'm on board with you. I can't use lemon tabs because it flavours everything. Everything. I have to get the plain ones because it's so disgusting. You know, when people put those lemon hanging things in their dishwasher, I can't. Yeah, right. So it is a thing. It does happen.
Yeah. Okay,
but well, I just really wanted to validate it. But the idea of her minimising, her dismissal, her denial of your reality, and then to make it sound like you are being ridiculous, and then to huff off. Well, first of all, she's gaslighting, then she stonewalls you. Brilliant. Interested to know what she did after that. How did she come back down into the room?
Just reappeared as if nothing had happened.
And what does she say to you?
I think probably what's for dinner, I don't know. It would have, like it had never happened.
Well, I just wondered if she'd have been a little bit like, oh, lovely, darling, you know, that's really nice of you. A bit love bomby is what I'm saying. Like
Probably. But I mean, I couldn't swear to it because that's a long time ago.
Okay,
but that would fit a pattern, yes.
Okay. So that in itself is important to notice. The pattern of, because that was very clear, where you had challenged her superiority, her immediate response was to gaslight you. And by gaslight, people get this very wrong and very confused all the time. Gaslighting is not disagreeing. It's not even complaining or saying, I was just trying to help. That's not gaslighting. The gaslighting is, don't be ridiculous. You're crazy if you think you can taste it. Because what she's then doing is setting or establishing a narrative that the way you think is fundamentally flawed. And so if we take that idea that she gaslights you over a fucking water bottle, sorry language, no, I'm not sorry, what am I saying?
It's fine.
Over a fucking water bottle. Imagine what she said to you when you said, Mummy, I don't like it when you talk to me like that. I don't want you to comment on my body. I don't want you to tell me I'm a bad person. Why aren't I allowed to just have what I like? Imagine. And imagine, see how angry and how much that has lived with you for 10 years. Now imagine what little you felt when she was being told everything she felt and thought and wanted was wrong or greedy or selfish or self-indulgent. How would she have felt?
Just, yeah, it was awful.
It was awful. And there is maybe time she was honoured. That awfulness, the realness of how bad that was for her. The idea that because there was money or education or things that says you can't say you were sad, hurt, wounded by emotional shaming, abandonment, humiliation, rejection on repeat. The idea that you can't acknowledge those things because the house was nice or the whatever it was. You said picturesque. A picturesque childhood. What does that even mean?
It looked very nice from the outside.
Right. Bet it didn't, though. I bet it didn't.
No.
I
bet it didn't.
put money on the idea that there were people around that witnessed things that were like, God, that is not okay, the way she speaks to her daughter. I will put money on it. And I wonder if anyone's actually said it to you.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah, they have.
So who believes this idea that it was picturesque?
Well, probably my mother and my stepfather. And I think I use it, if I'm honest, I use it to minimise
Yes, you do.
what it was.
You collude with their narrative to avoid your grief. It was not picturesque, or at least the picture was a very different one and representation than the one you were told it was. It had a very different meaning. I highly doubt that there were lots of people sitting there going, you have the most amazing childhood, if they watched how your mother interacted and your stepfather interacted with you. The money is the greatest smokescreen for abuse. And we only need to look at current court cases, as in P. Diddy and Epstein and Weinstein and all of these men who are hugely wealthy and powerful that covered up decades of abuse, horrific abuse, Jimmy Savile, on behind the smokescreen of money and power. And children have very little power. You had no power. And at the same time, you're being told to be grateful for this life you're living. Be grateful that you are rejected and humiliated and shamed because you live in a nice home, go to a nice school, have nice things. I'm pretty sure younger you would have given it all up to be loved.
But the sad thing is younger me thought I was loved.
And there is the grief too. There is the grief too, the fantasy bond, that's called, where we believe that the parent is good and that they do adore us. But also don't forget they're telling you that too. I'm doing it because I love you. I'm saying it before anyone else does. I'm only saying it because I don't want you to be bullied. And you laughed and rolled your eyes. They're like, right?
Yeah. No.
What I'd love for you to take from that, though, is it's so common. It's such a common tactic that I have it right there on the tip of my tongue to offer as a way in which you would have been manipulated. See that? That you're not alone in that. That it's not you that is the problem in that. That you were being abused. Discomfort with that word.
It's It's back to that. It's for everyone else, but not for me.
Because again, what would it cost you to believe that it was for you?
It's back to feeling self-indulgent. That's
Okay.
something I think I can. Yeah.
One of the tools that I'm going to give you to
Mhm.
take away is one of the exercises that I use in reframing rejection. And the idea is that essentially you write down everything that they told you you were.
Mhm.
So all the things, all the versions of you that they said, like the bad things they told you you were.
Mhm.
And you go through all those things and you look for evidence of them. Why would I believe that about myself? And then you ask, how does it help me to believe that about myself? What power do I get from that? And everyone always goes, well, it doesn't help me. Yes, it does. We don't do it if it doesn't, right? So you write down every single way in which they told you you were a bad person. And then you look for the evidence of it. And then you look if there is evidence and you did, for example, do something that was selfish, because you are a human being and there will be moments. First of all, apply it to adult life. Children make mistakes. Children are meant to have moments of selfish. You haven't got a teenager yet, but goodness me, wait until you do. Because because they hit these teen years, and I've got a friend of mine who keeps just reminding me, it's normal for 17, it's normal for 17, it's normal, because I haven't got the blueprint to tell me what's kind of within the boundaries of okay and not okay. And I sit with you in that fearfulness of what is not all right and not all, that kind of thing. But you look and go through every narrative and look for the evidence. And if you find evidence, ask yourself, what did I do about it? Did I deny it? Did I deflect it? Did I shame or humiliate the person that held me accountable for it? Did I own it, or did I apologize for it? Did I, even if I didn't do it to that person, did I feel bad about the fact that I had done that thing? And maybe I didn't say sorry because of my own shame at that point in my life, and I was too scared of acknowledging it. But if I was to be here now and that happened, I would apologize for it, right?
Mhm.
So that's one technique, is going through all these narratives. And then the other is the, why do other people get to decide my value? If one person doesn't like me, and does that make me unlikable? Why does it make me unlikable? How does it help me to believe that about me? And then maybe asking your younger self what she needs to feel safe, what reassurance she needs, not telling her, asking her. What do you need to feel safe? So that if I go and have a few drinks and I get a bit loud and make a few jokes that are a bit on the wrong side of the line, or say something that cuts a little bit close to the bone for somebody, what do you need to feel okay with that? What do you need for it to be safe for us to just be who we are and listen to what she wants?
Mm.
How does that feel?
It feels possible.
Mm-hmm.
It feels big.
It is big. This is not we'll do this in 5 minutes
We'll
task.
do this tomorrow. Yeah.
No, this is going to be repeated over and over and over again.
Okay.
This takes time.
Mm-hmm.
And then the other thing that I will offer, and this is actually, I think, the key to healing any of these things, is to build identity really robustly. Really start looking at what you like and what you don't like, what you want, what you don't want. And you start building these kind of walls that have doors in that let people in, but can also be locked to keep people out.
Mm-hmm.
And you can also have a chute where you just shove people down when they're not, maybe it's a bit brutal. But the idea being, we don't need to trust other people to be safe. We need to trust ourselves. To trust ourselves, we need to know ourselves, because we need to know when we are being crossed in any way, and that we can protect ourselves from that. When it comes to your daughter, when she is doing something that you would have got in trouble for, you reassure little you. You talk to your little self, not your adult self. You don't say, we've got this, we're okay. You say to her, you do not need to protect me anymore. I'm an adult and I will protect you. I will keep you safe. We are not getting in trouble for someone else chewing with their mouth open. You are safe with me. It's not your job to protect me. You are not responsible for how I behave. I am responsible for protecting you in a way that nobody did when you were small. How does that feel?
Feels like it might be nice.
Nice? Bit weirdly uncomfortable too?
Yeah, but I've been doing weirdly uncomfortable for a couple of years with all this, so that's okay.
Okay. And it is. I mean, just again, want to really validate that, because that contempt, that disgust, that disdain, those feelings, not disgust, as you said, but that kind of feeling, it helps to blame her for not being lovable rather than to blame them for not loving. Yeah. And what the thing there is that, are you colluding with the abuse against her, or are you going to protect her from it?
Yeah.
It does feel uncomfortable. It does feel weird, especially if it has been safer not to give her a voice or space or whatever it might be. But it will change literally everything if you can do that for you and your daughter.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. So before we finish, Lucy, is there anything else that you need from me that we haven't got to, any questions unanswered or anything?
No, not at all. I think it went in places I didn't expect.
Yeah.
But I think you have got to the nub of an issue in the way that I never could. So thank you.
Oh, well, that is my absolute pleasure. Couldn't have done it if you weren't open to it. So, there is a collaborative aspect to the work. Yeah, absolutely. It's 100% collaborative. I can't help people who don't want to be helped. And that is absolutely, as I said to you before we started, I'm your sat-nav. Yeah, we went a different route and maybe went and took a little tour of something we didn't expect to see. But that's the whole point, right?
Yeah.
You go down.
Yeah, indeed.
Okay. All right. Well, I am so grateful for you coming on and being so open and following the sat nav and going in unexpected roads
off-road.
And off-road, off-piste, all the jazz. Thank you very, very much, Lucy, for being here. And, I just, genuinely really privileged. So thank you for sharing.
Oh, thank you very much as well. Thank you for having me.
My total pleasure. Okay, well, I guess on that note, all that remains to be said, as ever, is take care. Bye.
Bye.